I literally ripped out of the top of my single man tent, and I'm pacing in the desert, and I'm screaming this, what more could you have done? And then I look at the sky and I'm like, what more could you have done? I'm like, how about you show the fuck up? I hear the loudest thunder, like, of my life, all in a matter of like 2 seconds. It's all bang, and wind starts coming in, and I'm like, oh shit. Like, have you ever seen Encino Man?
Oh yeah.
I think there's a scene in there where he tracks down a fly and eats it, and that's how I felt.
Yeah.
Like I was just gonna start like crawling across the ground until I found it and catch it and eat it. And I'm like I'm like autistic about gross stuff.
But that point was like survival.
That cured my autism for a minute.
So why were you doing that fast?
I can't remember which one that was.
Was it like a
because
Jesus
originally
thing? Was it like 40 days?
But yeah, usually they're kind of like a Jesus type thing, like a spiritual pursuit. Yeah. A lot of people will have a lot of opinions about like health concerns and is it good for you? Is this and you can obviously like anything with. I think nutrition is a pretty soft science in a lot of regards. I mean, depending on what study you want to read and what study debunks the study you like, etc. And so I don't really bother with much of that or hanging my hat on any of that. I just kind of do what feels right. But for me, it was more about spirituality, discipline. It's kind of a good launching off point for me to get me in a good place. I know you can't tell right now. It's been years since I've been healthy. I haven't done any of that for probably 13 years. But back in the 2000s when I knew you and I was like a hippie, I would do that kind of stuff. And yeah, it would just get me in the zone, locked in mentally and spiritually.
Did you feel like you had spiritual experiences on that? I mean, were you...
Dude. Yeah. Like the craziest experiences of my life were during one of those in particular. Yeah. Yeah. I mean... Yeah.
So you gotta tell me about it, bro.
Yeah, I can tell you about some of them. Sorry, I'm nervous too. You ever grab an electric fence? You know that feeling like in your arms, that like jitter feeling? I feel like I have that in my chest and my throat. I'm just like, So hopefully this is
Bro, nervous is good, dude.
Yeah.
There's this fine line. It's like almost the same, nervousness and excitement.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's that way on like the comedy stage. Like if I'm too calm, or I'm just like, I got this. I feel so calm. I'm in the zone. I suck, dude. I'll go up and bomb. And then on the ones where I'm like, dude, I am going to throw up. I can't stand this. I want to get off this stage. I'm going to run out of this bar before I even go on stage, and then I'll crush and just kill. I don't know what that is.
Dude, it sounds a little bit like Theo. Theo was on the podcast with Rogan just recently, and he was talking about how he's afraid to talk to girls. And he's like terrified, and like the girls are just like throwing themselves out. In fact, I had this funny story where we're at the UFC and I was talking to Theo and dapped him up. Like I don't know him, but he was walking past us and I had my phone out, and so dapped him up and he talks to us for a little bit, and I post on my story at the UFC where we have floor seats, so I post on my story and I start getting blown up like in real time. You're with Theo, and everybody thinks I know him, but I don't know him. But everybody's like, you know Theo, and I'm like, and I'm acting like, I'm just talking to him. I'm trying to like just being stupid, and then my phone starts getting blown up in this group text message, and these girls that are friends with my buddy's girlfriend, my buddy's wives, they're all in this group chat like, we want you to get Theo to come hang out with us. And they start sending me provocative pictures like, you get Theo to come hang out. So I go walking around this kind of like security area, and I'm like, Theo, and Theo's so cool. He just walks up to me, and I'm like, bro, I'm showing him these pictures. These girls love you. He's like, that's pretty cool, man. Like he was just chill about it. But so he's on Rogan talking about how he's afraid to talk to girls, and then Rogan's like, how do you do your stand-up comedy and all this other stuff? And he's like, well, I guess I just got used to being nervous. So I get on the stage and it's just normal for me because I'm nervous about everything is kind of the thing the takeaway I got from that was.
Yeah, I get nervous. I get this head shake, my essential tremors on it. So if you notice my head shaking, it's not, it's my mom, I didn't have it till like a year and a half ago. My mom's had it my whole life. I made fun of her my whole life, and karma's just hit me in the dick, dude. Like, cause it just like started. I think if I would eat right and sleep well and quit caffeine and nicotine and whatnot, it would dissipate to a large degree. But yeah.
But then what's the point of life, dude?
I know, exactly. Yeah. So I want to like sit here and hold my hand like this, because so then my head won't shake.
Dude, Theo puts his eye on me. He goes like this.
Really? That's, yeah, dude. I just am like, whew.
Yeah, you just be
he
you,
stole
man.
a girl from me, dude.
Theo did?
He doesn't know it, but yeah, I matched with this girl on Tinder, and I was living in Reno, and I matched with her. She was out in California. She was like several hours away, but she was in California. And we connected. We'd talk on the phone all the time. There was it was pretty whatever. We never met in person, but I mean, I got the nudes, the whole nine, right?
Yeah.
And she went to a Theo Von concert or show, and she started sending me pictures of like her and Theo. And then I asked her like the next day how it was going, and she flipped, like, she's like, this jealousy thing really isn't a good look on you. And I'm like, dude, I'm not jealous. I want to have sex with you more, just to like get some,
closer to Theo.
Closer to Theo. Yeah, that was like my whole angle. And she like wasn't having it, and she was moving to Louisiana to like not to be with him. She'd already had plans to, but she had told me all about this way before she went to the show, and how she hoped she met Theo out there and all this stuff. And then, so if I ever meet Theo, I'm gonna be like, dude, you stole my wife.
Yeah, you gotta punch him in the face, dude.
Yeah, she was Jewish too. I was gonna get one of the chosen people, get a chosen baby.
You're kind of guaranteed into heaven, aren't you?
That was what I was hoping for.
Mormon, sort of, and then like
Jewish.
Those are the people that know they're getting into heaven.
I know.
Mormons and Jews know they're getting into heaven.
If I don't get into heaven, I'm blaming Theo, dude.
It's his fault, dude. Well, yeah. Well, anyways, dude, back. You got to tell me about some.
Spirituality. So, yeah, where were we? Oh, about like spiritual experiences. Well, yeah, I want to figure out how. I mean, sometimes spiritual things are hard to articulate, right? And hard to communicate, because it's kind of like you had to be there, and if you can't communicate the experience, it's kind of like probably doesn't mean anything to anyone else. But yeah, in 2012, I was going through a lot, as everybody does, and had a lot of like life choices, and decisions I was trying to make at the time. And I'm trying to think or back up, like, well, things have been real bad. So I'd gotten excommunicated from the church 2 years earlier. From the Mormon church 2 years earlier. I was pretty angry. I was pretty atheist. I told people I was like an atheist at this point. If they asked, I was never one of those like militant,
the proselyting atheists that have their own religion, that are like,
ex-Mormon culture never appealed to me. I thought they seemed like geeks. I was like, I would have hated you in the church, and I hate you now out of the church. Because they're just as fundamental, you know what I mean? They're kicking against I don't know. Anyway, that never resonated with me, but in my heart, I was like, at that point, I was kind of like, me and God were definitely not on speaking terms. I'll put it that way. But I needed to connect. I was pretty desperate. I was just didn't know what I wanted to do in my marriage, didn't know what I wanted to do in life, in my job, etc. And I was like, well, several years ago, I'd done that fast when you had seen me. And that was a really, really good experience. And so just kind of a Hail Mary, I guess, to try to reconnect and get something going. And I wasn't really sure what I was looking for. So I fasted for 40 days, and then I found this place down.
Wait, when you say fasted for 40 days, you're talking about you were drinking.
Clarify. I was doing juice,
like lemon juice with cayenne pepper and stuff. Like, was it
sometimes that's called the Master Cleanser, and I would do that sometimes, but mostly just like green juice, like kale, spinach, green apples, celery, that kind of stuff. Stuff that doesn't have a lot of sugar in it, and just kind of keeps you going. Water fasts have always been difficult for me. I think the longest I've went on a water fast is like a week, maybe 9 days.
That's wild.
And it's rough. And I think, like, I know some people, dude, they can get through like a 10-day water fast and just like, yeah, dude, I feel good. Like the first few days suck and then I feel good, but not me. Like when I do water, I'm laid out big time for like the whole time. So when I go these long ones for like 40 days or over a week, I'll do like juice and stuff. And again, it's not so much the health. I mean, I do lose a lot of weight, and that's cool. I mean, it's nice when you're a fat ass like me, but really it's the mental like clarity that comes with it for me, and sort of just that connection to the other side, whatever that is. So I decided to do that. And I went and I did all 40 days, and then I went down to the desert in southern Utah. I had a kid who used to do like troubled youth treks down there. He knew some really remote like areas on BLM land. So he showed me where some springs were, and he's like, dude, there won't be like 100 people within 100 miles of you if you go here, here, and here.
You were going by yourself.
So I was going to go by myself. Yeah, I was doing like full.
This is biblical, bro.
I was doing the white man's Hamblecha, dude. I was going to find the Lord, dude. Speaking of Theo, dude, I love him. People are like, Theo, what are you doing? He's like, just looking for the Lord, dude.
Looking for the Lord.
I was looking for the Lord, dude, and I was like, I'm going to fucking find you. You come out of your hiding place, brother. Like, because I've had just about enough of my own bullshit, and I need some explanation here. So anyway, I went down there, and long story short, and this is where it gets into the kind of like, and sometimes I hesitate to talk about it because I know it's not going to, some of it doesn't entirely make sense to me. So yeah, whatever, I'll just send it. But then I go just water. Like I'm just drinking water down there out of the spring.
Wait, have you had any food?
No.
So 40 days and now you're just doing water.
And now I'm down in the desert. There's not another human being. It's the most beautiful area. There's going to be some Indian hikers that just they're going to find your body there, bro. Dude, that's the plan, dude. Edward Abbey, dude. You guys are just going to bury me somewhere nobody knows except my buds, dude.
We'll just put a pile of stones on you, pour out a little bit of whiskey. And,
that's what I'm saying, dude. And so, I'm down there and I'm hanging out and I'm having a good time. I'm parked right by there was a bee hive, and just go hang out with the bees and look at the thing at night. Like, had a little coyote friend that would like howl at midnight. Like every night I'd wake up and I'd hear like the yips, and I'd look at the time and it'd be like midnight every night. And you just like, as soon as you come down and cross this threshold, the place I was at, you'd come down this like sand dune area, and it's probably a 80-foot like incline, decline or whatever, like drop. And as soon as you step off the sand dune and across this little creek, for me, like instant comfort. You know, in the church when they talk about the Holy Ghost as the comforter, like just this, because I'm alone, dude, and I'm not Bear Grylls. I don't know what the fuck I'm doing in the woods. Like, I'm not doing this as a statement like, I'm a man's man, the stuff we talk about in other, areas. This is like, nope, I'm just a dude hoping not to die, looking for the Lord, like I said. And so that comfort was really comforting because I was nervous. I'd never done anything like this. I'm like, am I going to die, dude? Or skinwalker's going to come, witch doctor's going to come get me at night? Am I going to get eaten by a mountain lion? What is happening? And as soon as I crossed this threshold, it was just like this feeling of like, everything's going to be fine. You're okay. You're safe here. It was kind of like a sanctuary, and like, it was as idyllic as you could imagine. And so I'm vibing with it, right, for days, and I'm just like drinking water. I have a little bit of calories in my pack, like some nuts and some cheese and stuff, but I'm not eating it, and I'm just doing the water. And I decide that I'm going to read the Book of Mormon again. I'm like, just maybe even to prove that it's bullshit for me. You know what I mean? I was just like, all right. Because again, I'm like, I've got a lot of resentments. I've got a lot of things I'm trying to figure out. And you can stop me if this gets too long or whatever. And I guess you guys can chop it up or whatever to make it sound good.
We're not editing it, bro. So all right, cool. Full send it.
All right, cool. So, I'm reading, and to this day, dude, I cannot fucking remember what chapter it was. And I'd bounce around in scriptures, right? So it might have been in the Pearl of Great Price. It might have been maybe even in the Bible. I don't think it was, but I I'm reading somewhere, and it's talking about the vineyard, God, his servants, and the vineyard.
It's Jacob.
Is it Jacob?
Jacob.
Okay.
Book of Mormon.
And he's trying to, and he's talking about like his intentions, what he wants, and how the vineyard keeps falling apart. He keeps getting bitter fruit here, over here, and he keeps asking his servant, "What more could I have done? What more could I have done?" Oh, mind you, back up. I'm a slow reader too. Like I can't do the whole, like, I can read the Book of Mormon in a day. That's just like not happening. So I've been reading it for probably like 4 days, and I'm reading it almost like all day. And I noticed I'm just getting like angrier and angrier. From like day one, I started out at like a 2. I'm just like, I'm pissed. I'm like, why is every fucking verse like pissing me off? This just doesn't hit the same way it used to. You know what I mean? And like by the time I get here, I'm getting like angry, like angrier and angrier and angrier. And it's funny too, because it's a really moving story. Like, I mean, just from a literary point of view, because you have the Lord trying to like do this good thing, and he's like, what more could I have done? And in the end, he asks, and I'm about losing it. This is the point where I'm about to like freak out. And God says at some point, all I've asked of my children, or something to that effect. And again, you probably know this better than I do. I'm botching the exact words, but he's like, all I've asked people to do is to love each other and to serve one another, and like and yet they go about murdering and stealing and hurting one another. And he's like crying to the prophet, like it's this scripture of like the God Almighty of the universe, like weeping over his failed program. And he's like, what more could I have done? And my dumbass, I'm like, what more could you have done? I remember just saying it, and I'm sitting there in my tent. I'm in a single man tent, and I'm like, what more could you have done? What more could you have done? What more could you have done? And I like bust out of my tent. And this is it's a bright, clear day. I can only see east-west because the canyon goes 100 feet on both sides of me. And that comes into play in just a second. But like, there's no people around, so I can act like a crazy person. I haven't seen anybody in a week or whatever it is.
Like John the Baptist, bro.
Yeah, I mean, I'm starting to talk to myself. It's getting a little...
Locusts and honey and nuts and cheese,
That's what I'm talking about, yeah. And I'm like, what more could you have done? What more could you have done? And I'm like, how about you... and it's hard because this is like kind of a quiet environment. Usually when I tell this story, I get animated because I stand up and kind of reproduce what I did. But I literally ripped out of the top of my single man tent, and I'm pacing in the desert, and I'm screaming this, what more could you have done? And then I look at the sky, and I'm like, what more could you have done? I'm like, how about you show the fuck? And I scream it as loud, like with every fiber in my fucking being. I'm like, how about you show the fuck up? And as I threw my hand down to the ground, and this is the part where it's like, dude, if this doesn't resonate with them, it wouldn't resonate with me either. I'd be like, this guy's an idiot. Who cares? This story doesn't mean anything to me, because I still don't even know what happened. But I put the period on the exclamation point on that sentence, and it was as if like when my finger hit its low point, show the fuck up, I hear the loudest thunder, of my life. And I'm not like exaggerating or remembering back and embellishing. It was like it was fucking shocking. Like I went back, and I know I'm supposed to talk into this thing, but it threw me back, and I screamed, and I look in the sky, and again, this is where it's fucking weird, and I don't know what it means, but as it appeared to me, and I don't even know how this is physically even possible. I don't know how I could have hallucinated this in a weird way. But clouds gathered in all directions, fast, from all areas. Black, like gray, rumbling clouds came and from all directions, and right over my head, like all in a matter of like 2 seconds. It's all bang. And wind starts coming in, and I'm like, oh, shit. But what was more important is like when I said, show the fuck up, I hear the bang, And then this is the part that made it meaningful to me, because that all could have happened just by itself, and I would have been like, wow, what a coincidence.
Pretty fucking big coincidence, dude.
Yeah. But where it really drove it home is when I said show the fuck up, and I hear the thunder in my head, and it was as clear as day. And this is the part where, because you've heard these voices in your head, they speak to you. I hear, I spoke to you in this still small voice, but you were past feeling. And I've spoken to you with the tongue of angels. I should probably just read it because it's way better. It's the one where Nephi is talking to Laman and Lemuel. Yeah. I came to you in this way, and I came to you even in the still small voice, but you were past feeling. And now I'm speaking to you even as the voice of thunder. That you're very, and I think it even goes on to say that your very frame and begins to quake and shake, like the earth is going to divide asunder. But it all came through, and this all happens like at the same time, right? When these things happen, it's like, and I was like, and immediately I was just like, oh fuck, and I like ran into my tent, and then I'm panicking because it's like winding and shit. And I had just been reading a couple days before that out of Desert Solitaire. Edward Abbey talks about the flash floods and stuff that would come down there. And again, I'm not like an outdoorsman. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. And I'm like, dude, am I going to get stuck in a flash flood? I don't know what's going on. And I'm just at this point bawling in my tent. The sound of the thunder alone, like, just humbled the shit out of me. I'm like crying. But the wind is like beating my tent into the wall that I'm like parked up against. And I'm waiting for like a waterfall to just start coming like over the edge. And I'm like, and I'm completely depleted of energy. I can't, even if I wanted to, I can't, I'm not about to pack up my tent and start trying to run 2 miles down the road, down the stream bed, and then up a sand dune 100 yards or however, 100 feet or whatever it is. I'm like, I'm stuck. The best I can hope for is like crawl up this little hill and kind of just park it here.
Yeah, if it's anything like that couch carrying experience, you can't even do that.
Dude, that's what I'm telling you.
It'd be like
dude.
a zombie stumble at best.
Dude, and I'm like, so I sit there and I don't know, it could have been 5 minutes. It could have been 45 minutes. I honestly, I cannot. I have no idea. I know I was in my tent, and finally I just started like crying and begging. I was like, all right, like screaming at them. I'm like, I'm sorry. I'm fucking sorry. Like, dude, please, like, don't let me die, dude. Like, please, I'm sorry. Give me another chance, basically. Like, I'm sorry. And like, dude, again, another coincidence, that's probably what the science would show, that it was all coincidence. I just happened to be saying certain things when a thunderstorm out of a crystal blue sky was going to hit, and I felt the spirit. I know, right?
Come on, bro.
So but as soon as I started crying, dude, like the wind went from bashing into my tent to just like, and then it was like, just like when in the New Testament, when Christ calms the sea, identical to how I have that story in my head. And then like a peace like came over the land. I mean, to say I felt peaceful and good is a stretch. I still felt like reprimanded baby boy. I was like, I'm sorry, but I felt safe. You know what I mean? I was like, okay, I'm okay. And then the next day, I went to meditate under this giant arch in like the wall, and I meditated all day after that experience, and I had a lot of revelation, and the sum of it was that I felt like I was shown in vision all the times in my life that it started out, do you think I don't know you? You think I don't know you? And do you think I didn't know you would do X, Y, and Z, that you'd get excommunicated from the church, that things wouldn't work out in this area and that area and this area? And showed me like I was with you then, and I was with you then, and I was with you then. And the message was that I'm still with you, and I'm going to be with you the whole time. And dude, that changed me for months and months until I turned away from it. I came home like, and again, I don't mean to make all these references that maybe will trigger some of your audience. I hope it doesn't, but like, like Moses when he came down from Mount Sinai, and it says his like countenance shined. I came home and immediately, like, I went and visited my mom at work, and I walked in her office, and she sat back in her desk, and it just said, "What happened to you?" And I'm like, I could feel it wasn't like it was a good feeling. Like she was just shaken. Like, what happened? And I was like, I don't know. I feel real good. I don't know. I feel really good. And she like starts crying, and I'm crying. Nothing was even fucking said. I went to work, and it wasn't just family. I go to work. I walk in to the Apple store, and everybody was like, "Dude, what the frick?" And I'm like, "I'm humming, bro, dude. Like, I don't know, like something's good." And I remember like, I was really a blasphemous person. I still am, you know. I like to use humor and couple it with spirituality. I think, and a lot of times my aim is to disarm people to get a conversation going about it. I think if we can laugh about it, then we can, and put away our triggers, then we can talk about it. But sometimes I take it too far, and it gets a little crass and just like weird. And like there was something about God that had come up, and I was like, well, you know what? Never mind. And I remember this gal, Deanna, I want to say her name was. She looks and pauses, and she's all, "What the hell happened to you down in the desert?" And I was like, "Brother, I don't know." Like, dude, my boss pulled me into his office. Same thing. He's like, "Dude, what the frick?" He's like, "I love it. Like, everyone can feel it. You're not even doing anything different. You feel different." Yeah. And I'm like, "Dude, I know." And it lasted about 2 months until, and maybe this can go into some other topics, but yeah, I took that first drink, brother, that we talk about all the time in AA. That first drink, dude, and I fucking, yeah, threw it away, and it turned in, that became the next, what was that, 2012? Yeah, so the next 12 years have been real rough, and I think it's because I turned away from what I knew, and I've paid the consequences, dude. And that was just for me. I'm not saying other people. I think drinking's cool as hell for the right person, but when you know it's not for you, you know it's not for you. And I didn't listen.
I've never heard that story, and I didn't know what we were going to talk about when you came on the show. Mm-hmm. That's one of the coolest things I've ever heard in my entire life. That felt like scripture to me.
Yeah,
I think it's important. We talk about the journey of becoming a man, mm-hmm. and I think part of that journey, the most important part of that journey, is finding God. Mm-hmm. You can't prove to somebody else that God exists. Mm-hmm. You can only prove it to yourself with God. Mm-hmm. It's the only way it works. You can't articulate it, like you said. You cannot rationalize God to anybody who doesn't want to believe in God, who's past feeling, who doesn't want to listen. But if you open your heart, if you will go to how far you have to go, my experience is God always shows up. He always shows up. And I think another really important lesson from that story that you just shared is that God meets us where we're at. I think it's too often in the religious world that those who claim to know God think that you have to look a certain way, talk a certain way, and act a certain way to have connection with God. And my experience has been, I'm trying not to get emotional because your story, it hit me pretty hard, dude. My experience has been that God doesn't look for those things. He looks for the heart. Mm-hmm. It's awesome, bro.
Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity to share it. I always hesitate because you know how it is. And sometimes the difficult thing I struggle with in telling those kinds of stories is when I'm not in that place. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I don't feel... It's almost like a weird feeling like, I'm not even worthy to talk about this right now. You know, I'm not in that place, and so I can't convey it in the proper way.
When you say that I'm not worthy, that's where I think the world programming comes in, because there's this whole thing that you have to do X, Y, and Z before God will speak to you. And I don't think worthiness means anything to God. I think that's a construct that man has made to pick winners and losers in the spiritual realm that we're in. And that's where I have a problem now with religion of all kinds, where there's somebody else acting as middle management, mm-hmm. telling other people this is what God wants you to do to be right with him, programming people, kids at an early age, mm-hmm. to have this shame in them, the sense that they're not worthy. And the only way they can be worthy is to work through a system where somebody's telling you what you got to do to be worthy to talk with God.
Yeah.
This is probably one of the most important podcasts that I've ever done, with anybody, because the lessons in this, we could talk about this for hours, and we try to keep these pretty concise.
Yeah.
So that people pay attention, because the attention span out there in social media is so limited. You're wrestling for elbow room at the table, but
they're all God in the clouds. Okay, swipe.
Yeah. I know. I think for so many people, this is going to touch them on a fundamental level, and it is in my opinion, the most important part of masculinity. It's not getting bitches. It's not having money. It's not driving the right cars. Success in any realm of your life is good. Mm-hmm. But when that becomes your focal point, you miss the whole purpose of what this life is about, which is to come closer to your maker. And that's where everything starts to make sense.
Yeah.
And I would say this to anybody. I know that this is true. There's very few things that I would know that is true. But if you're willing to do whatever it takes to connect with God, you'll find God.
Yeah. I agree. And I've said the exact same thing. Like you said, when you seek him, he comes. He always comes. I think often, and probably in part because we take the scriptures at their word. When we hear, ask and you shall receive, knock and it shall be open to you. And oftentimes I think that gets interpreted in material terms. I haven't experienced that. I haven't experienced the genie God where I'm like, hey, this is what I want in life. This is what I get in life. Hey, this is what I don't want. Please don't kill my dog of old age. Give him another year and then get that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But when I need relationship, when I need comfort, when I need answers, when I need wisdom, and my back's against the wall, every time. And anyone I've ever talked to that will try, just give it their all. And like you said, he meets us where we're at. I mean, the Book of Mormon even says, like, he talks to men in their own language according to their own understanding. That's not limited to anybody. That's everyone.
Exactly.
Atheist, Buddhist, anyone. Like, if you need to make that connection, and however you want to reduce that or interpret that too, is it possible that it's my own higher subconscious? Yeah, sure. And maybe someday science will prove that, and that's
maybe
okay.
That's what God is ultimately, right?
Yeah, and that's okay.
Maybe.
Well, and even that bleeds into some, Hinduism. Atman is, the spirit, and then Brahman is God, and they're the same damn thing. Like, it's, I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but all I'm saying is, like, whatever words we put to describe these abstract experiences we all seem to be having, the fruits of them are undeniable. For me, I can speak for myself. They make me better. They make me more loving. They make me more understanding. They make me more patient with myself. They make me slower to react, good or bad, in any way. And that's priceless, dude. And knowing that, I'll take it back to 12 years ago. Like, what I came away with from that was just that I'm never alone. I've never been alone, and that I'm loved a lot. I'm loved enough to get yelled at.
Yeah.
I mean, we talk about man stuff on this a lot, right?
A lot of times God's love is manifested in correction.
No one's manlier than our boy in the sky, dude. At least in my experience, because I've experienced it firsthand, and I appreciate it.
There's a famous quote, we'll close out on this. There's a famous quote I've thought often on. William McGill said, so, prayer can be manifested in many different ways. It can be meditation. It can be conversation in your truck. You can be folding your arms next to your bed or whatever that looks like. Mm-hmm. William McGill said the value of persistent prayer is not that God will finally hear us, but that we'll finally hear God, that we'll start listening. And anybody who's listening to this podcast, if you will talk to God and listen, you will hear if you'll really, really listen and pay attention. And there's three things to me that happen with prayer that you don't even have to believe in God for there to be value in prayer. The first is that when we recognize that there's a higher truth than us, when we realize that there's something bigger than us, it puts us in a state of humility that is so healthy for the soul, for every single person on this planet. And when we express gratitude, regardless of whether you believe in a God or not, we know science proves this over and over again, that by expressing gratitude, your life gets better. And the third thing is the ability to manifest. that when you're talking to this higher source and you are asking for things, not the genie in the bottle sort of effect, but when you're asking for things, that those things tend to manifest in your life, not right when you want them necessarily, not in that exact moment. In your case, it was. In your case, it was. Yeah, but often it's down the road, or it's later, it's in its right time and right place. Mm-hmm. But those three things, recognizing that there's a higher truth in you, having gratitude for the things you're going through in life, especially when you're going through the hard times in your life, expressing gratitude has carried me through some of the hardest moments of my life. And then being able to talk with this force and being able to manifest changes in your life because of it. Everybody should be praying.
Yeah, agreed.